Hey, Gabe.
How's it going, Daryl?
Good. How are you?
Pretty good, pretty good.
Good.
How's the weather in Vegas?
Yeah, it's fantastic today.
Really?
Yeah, it's a little windy, but it's a little warm too.
Uh-huh.
Got up to 100 yesterday.
Really already?
It's way too early.
Yeah, 100 at this time.
So I wanted to ask you, this class you're teaching today is
Hmm.
would this be so here in Las Vegas they work a lot with Arcadia systems and they get these uh, things come in. Sometimes they can get a Revit model, and I'm wondering if there might be some way we could, even though it's not Walter's Mill system, we could use that in some way to take off information, get stuff, but I'm not sure how to go about it.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, what I'm going to show you is kind of how like to prep before you model. So if you kind of want to bring in the architectural model and take some dimensions and all that, you definitely can.
So that's kind of what we're going to cover today a little bit.
Kind of. It's more of a setup, but yeah, I can kind of
Yeah.
mention that.
Okay. Fine. That's what kind of what I was thinking.
Hmm.
Great. Thank you.
Hmm.
Hello.
Your daughter's cute, Gabe.
Thank you. Thank you. What's up over here?
Hey, Gabe. What's your daughter's name again?
Her name is Ariana.
Adriana?
Ariana.
Ariana, huh? Right on. You getting some sleep now?
Huh?
You ready to sleep now?
Yeah, last night I got like pretty decent amount of sleep, so
Mm-hmm.
I'm pretty happy right now.
That's good.
We'll see about tonight. Were you guys in the panel training one? No? I missed that one. I wanted to go to that one.
I need to rewatch stuff on videos. I still have a lot of work to fit around all the extra meetings.
Mm-hmm. Hey, James.
Going.
Nothing much. All right, it's 3 o'clock. So go ahead and get started. I see a couple people joining in on the call a little late, but go ahead and get started. So first of all, thank you guys for attending. If you guys don't know, my name is Gabriel Avila. I'm going to be giving a presentation on the Revit model setup. So before I start, just want to share a little photo. My daughter, see, cute little photo. I want to start the presentation on a good note. So if you do hear in the background, she's probably just saying hi, so don't mind her. But yeah, there you go. That's my daughter. All right, so let's get into this presentation. All right, oops, wrong screen. Let me switch my screens. You guys are seeing the slide one, right?
Yes.
Should,
Actually, see
see that?
oh, there we go. Full slide.
All right, there we go. All right, so today I'm going to talk to you about Revit model setup. What that means is basically, when we start a project, we get an architectural model, and I'm going to show you the steps on how to, set it up properly. So if you want to follow along, I'm going to jump back and forth between the slides and the actual Revit. So I'm going to do a little demo. There is a file located here. It's on the jobs. It's in the temp folders, project files, Revit training, and then advanced headquarters. Just to show you where that's at. Can't exit. There we go. So just to show you where that's at, it's in the jobs, temp folders, project files, Revit training, advanced headquarters, and just this one. So if you want to follow along, feel free. If not, you can always rewatch the video and just walk through it on your own. But I'm going to use basically this file. All right. All right, so to get started, a couple key takeaways from the presentation is the model setup steps should always be done before you start modeling. If we have an architectural model, if we don't have an architectural model, you won't necessarily follow these steps. These steps I'm going to show you basically understanding which Revit version to use, all the way up to starting to create walls. So that's kind of where this presentation is going to focus on. Another key point is acquiring coordinates is a key to ensure that your model is in the correct location. So when you're collaborating with other trades, you want to make sure you're in the right position. That way there's no errors when they're trying to link in each other's models. And then another one is to remember to pin elements to ensure they don't get moved on, like accidentally, I should say accidentally, not automatically. Sometimes we have a tendency to click and drag things, so make sure you pin them to ensure that doesn't happen. All right. So the first thing we want to go over is understanding which version to use. When we start a project and we get the architect's model, they actually dictate which Revit version we're going to use. So for example, if they are using, Revit 2020, we will start our project in Revit 2020. Revit 21 that just came out. So, if they are in Revit 2021, then we're gonna actually get that and start using it. Again, this is all due to coordination. For whatever reason, if we need to coordinate with them, we need to make sure we're on the same model. Okay. And if there's no architectural model, then we use our default version. Our default version is defined as the current year, so 2020 -2. So if there was no architectural model, we'd actually start using Revit 2018 for that project. The reason for this is because we've had a couple projects where we've requested a model. They said, "Oh, we don't have a model. We don't have one." And then we start working the latest Revit version 2020, and then a couple months later they're like, actually here's our model, and it's in 2018. So it's kind of like, oh man, you can't really use anything in 2020 that you've created already. So that's why it's always good to create it in the older versions, because You can upgrade your model, but you cannot downgrade. So everything you made in Revit 2020 is no good anymore. All right, sounds good. Again, if you have any questions anytime, feel free to stop me, put in the chat. I will be bouncing back and forth, so if I'm at a, bouncing, you just ask the question. Okay, so we talked about model version, Revit 20, Revit 19. How do you know which version the architect's model is in? To determine that, there's a pretty easy way. If you have Revit 2019 on your computer, the steps are you would go to open, you would open Revit 2019, you would go to the open, and then under the model section, there's this open, and then you just navigate to that location, and you click on the name, and you would see underneath it what version that was created in. So again, this was something that Autodesk added in 2019 or 2020, all the newer ones. If you have 2018 or 2017, this feature will not be available, but it's a quick, easy feature to see what version you're using. Okay, so what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna go ahead and open 2019, and I'm going to determine what version that project that I showed you earlier. Oh, sorry if you're seeing my other picture. I'm going to show you how to do this. Sorry, I closed it a little while ago. Come on, there we go. All right, so I opened up Revit 2019. If you don't have 2019, you might ask IT to install it. But if you go to where it says under models, you click open, and you navigate to the file that I mentioned. If you go to your computer, jobs, and then you go to temp folders, or any file that you got from the architect, you can use it. Go to Revit training, and then you go to advanced headquarters. This file here, once I click on it, you can see right here in this area here, it says Revit 2018. So I want to make sure I'm using Revit 2018 when I start this project. So now I know which one to use. I'm in 2019. I don't want to use this one, so I'd close it and actually open up 2018 and start using that. So that's what I'm going to do. So that's a quick and easy way to figure out which model version you're going to use based on the architect's model. All right. Okay, so now we know what version we're using. We want to make sure we're always using the Walters & Wolf standard project template. The standard project template is there. It has all of our, hatch patterns, our lines, specific project parameters, everything that's built in to this template is stuff we're going to be using for takeoffs, all of it. So it's always critical that you start with this template. If you don't have or don't know where the location of the project template is, you can always save of the location. For me, if you go to our Revit application menu and you go to options, you can click on this file locations and then you can add it. And this location is stored on the server and it's located in the WW standard template folder. And then once you add it, you'll be able to see it when you open up Revit. So I'll show you here. You can see that mine says WW standard project template. And that's the one I want to use. So I'm going to walk you through on how to add that to your startup screen, because you probably won't be seeing these. So if you go to the file, if you're in 2018, the file, right here, there's the options. You click on options. And then on this left side, you would click on file locations. And you hit the plus sign right here to add a template to the list. Once you hit the plus sign, it's going to open up this dialog box. And you're going to navigate to the S drive. So I go to my computer, S drive, Revit, and WW standard project template. And then it's going to be this one, the WW standard project template. Disregard the 02, 03, 04. Those are some backup files, but it's going to be this WW standard project template. Okay. And again, if you didn't follow these steps, I have a handout that I'm going to show you guys that I'll be posting online in the training section of the portal that outlines all of these steps. Again, so you click on that, you hit open. I already have it there, so mine's going to be the first one. And then you can, move them up and down. And this will determine the order that you'll see here. Hit OK. And now you should see the WW standard project template on this list. All right. So that's one of the first things you want to do. Make sure that's on there so that you have it for every time you start a project. The next thing I want to go over is the little bit of the interface. If you're new to Revit, you might not know, might be a little daunting to see all of the little features and all of the buttons, but just want to do a quick overview. The main ones have little asterisks by them, but I'll go through them all. So the first one is the quick access toolbar. So once you open up Revit and you start a project, you're going to see this quick access toolbar. This is commonly used tools up here. Number two is status bar, is down here. This is kind of like the command line in AutoCAD. It'll tell you what to do next. The application menu, like we saw, is this big R, or sometimes it's file, depending on which Revit version you're using. That's kind of like a Word where it gives you the options of save, open, all that. A big one is the ribbon. The ribbon is this area here. All of your buttons that you're going to use are pretty much in this ribbon, and there's tabs on that ribbon to toggle between. So if I say go to the ribbon on the Manage tab, you would know to look up here and click on this Manage tab. The next one is the Options bar, is down here, which is below the ribbon, and it only appears whenever you run a command. So say you run a wall command, there's going to be options associated with that command, and they'll appear down below. Let's see. Is there a way to increase the size of the status bar? That's a great question. I can find out. I don't know the top of my head, but I will find out for the status bar for you. Great question. The next one is the properties palette. So if you're started Revit for the first time, you'll see them stacked here. So this first one is your properties palette. It tells you everything associated with the view, like scale, approved by, like different things associated with what you're looking at. The project browser down here it's how you navigate Revit. It's going to show you your views, your sheets, your schedules. That's everything in this area. Okay, and then again, your view window is this area, and then your navigation bar. I don't use that too often, but that's here. And then down below is your view control bar. It allows you to toggle between different options for your view. Okay, so that's a basic overview. So if I mention, go to the properties palette or go to the project browser, you know what those are. Okay, now we're going to get into a little bit more of the specifics of understanding the internal origin point, project base point, and survey point. I kind of want to go over this because you kind of have to know some understanding of it before the next steps. So the internal origin point is a point, basically the 0, 0 point of the whole project, and it never moves. So this kind of is a basis for the positioning of all elements. And again, this never moves. If you're using Revit 2020.2 or newer, you'll see this at that origin point. If you're not, if you're using an older version like 2018, 2019, you won't be seeing that. You'll be seeing just some reference planes that I put in the project to indicate where the origin point is. The next thing is the project base point. The project base point is what you see here. it's this symbol here. It's like a circle with a little X. This defines the 0, 0, 0 of the project coordinate system. So initially, when you start a project, you'll see this this coordinate or this project base point on top of the internal base point or internal origin point. But this can be moved. This allows you to change the coordinates, your northing, southing, easting, or wherever they call it, north, south, east, west, and the elevation based on where you put this. And then you have your survey point. This defines a reference point from the survey coordinate system. So say the architect or someone, they actually go out and survey, you know, the site, and they have some coordinates that they actually want to input into the project. That's what they would put it in the survey point. So again, this also can be moved, but you can see the symbol is different from the project base point. Okay, make sense? Yeah. All right. So what we're going to do first, so now you understand the project base points. We have our Walt template. What we're going to do is we're going to actually link that architectural model into our project. So we're going to use the standard template. We're going to open it up, and then we're going to link it in. So I'll go over this before I actually switch over to Revit. But if we received an architectural model, we typically link it in and use it as a guide. That's a main thing. It's just a guide. We're not copying from it. We're not, you know, using it in any other way. Just kind of using it as a guide for our you know, our reference. And to do that, I'll show you the steps. Is once you open up the project template, you would go to the site plan, and from the site plan, you would go to the ribbon, and you would go to Insert, and you would go to Link Revit, and then you would navigate to your folder. This is where I have the project. You would click on it, and then down here, you want to make sure it's set to origin. It is set by default, but we just want to make sure it's set because if this is different, we're going to have some issues later on. Okay, so I'm going to come out to Revit. I'm going to start with my Walt standard template. If I click on it, if you see this upgrade feature, this is just upgraded because this template was in 2017, but now it's going to upgrade it to 2018 because that's the Revit version I'm working in. So it'll take a few seconds. It shouldn't take too long to open up. And again, once we move on to 2021, we'll be upgrading the standard template to 2018. And we will actually be linking it in. All right. So for those of you that are following along, I'm going to actually take it from my link in the project from my desktop, just in case it's a little slow from the server, because it looks like it is a little slow right now. And because I'm on Zoom, it's even slower. All right, so now that this is my Walt standard project template, this is our splash screen. What you'll see, I did move the project browser over here just for some, you know, just to see more views. But let's walk through that process. So I'm gonna move this zoom out of here. So to link in an architectural model, like I said, you're gonna go to the site plan, which is gonna come in by default. You can see I have a little text here that's saying this is your project internal base point. So if I zoom in, you can see I have reference planes that indicate where it's at. And you can see that, you know, if I zoom in, I have my project base point and my survey point at those locations. So they're on top of each other. If you zoom in or zoom out, they don't get any bigger or smaller. You might be able to play with the settings to make those a little bit bigger, but they don't get bigger if you zoom in and zoom out. Okay. So now what do I do? I'm in my site plan. I would go to the ribbon on the Insert tab, and I'm going to go to Link Revit. So if I click on Link Revit, I'm going to navigate. It's actually on my desktop for me to make it a little faster. So I'm going to click on my folder, I click on my file, sorry, make sure it's origin to origin, and then I'm just gonna hit open. So what that does, it's gonna link in the architectural model, and it's gonna be just one entity. If I zoom out, you can see that it got linked in. And if I hover over it, it's selecting it as a whole, right? You can see if I hover it, there's a little note that says RVT link, and it gives me the name of the file. So that's the first step. So I linked it in, and now it's in my project. All right. Everyone good so far? All right. Let's go back to our slides. So once I linked it in, the next thing I'm going to do is acquire coordinates. This is a big one. You want to acquire the coordinates. This is to make sure that it's in the right location. And you want to make sure you're selecting the architectural link. So I'm going to show you how to do that. So once you have it linked in, if you go to the ribbon and you go to the Manage tab, there's this area for coordinates, and you're going to go to Acquire Coordinates. And once you acquire coordinates and you select the linked project, you'll notice what happens is the project base point and the survey point will update. This one didn't have any coordinates for a survey point, so it didn't update. But you can see that the project base point updated to correspond to the coordinates that were in the linked model. So let's go ahead and do that part. So if I click on this, all right, actually you don't have to click on that, sorry. You would go to the Manage tab on the ribbon. You would go to Coordinates, and you go to Acquire Coordinates. And you can see at the bottom on the command down here, select a linked project from which to acquire shared coordinates. I agree with Saul. It should be a little bit bigger so it's a little more obvious. But you want to make sure you hover over an object in that linked model so you can see it has a border around it. That's how you know you're selecting the link. If you don't hover over it, you don't see the border, you're not selecting the actual link. So it won't be, you won't actually acquire the coordinates. So you want to make sure it's highlighted. So once I click on it, you can see it's doing something, it's generating, and now you can see what happened. This got updated. So if I zoom in here, now I just have my project base point in here. And if I select it, you can see that it acquired the coordinates within the linked project to my project. So now you can see the survey point actually moved. And if I double middle mouse, so I use my middle mouse wheel, if I double middle mouse, you can see the survey point is way over here. That's because they defined this point over here to be 0, 0, and over here is actually where my project is. I have to zoom in here, zoom in, zoom in, zoom in. So if you notice that your project goes away, it's probably because you're very, very far from specific elements within the project. So you can see now I've acquired the coordinates. Does that make sense? Yep. All right, so if I acquire the coordinates, let's move on to the next step. The next thing you want to do is pin the architectural model, the linked model. Once you've acquired the coordinates, make sure you pin it. And you can also pin the project base point and survey point. That way, you know, they don't accidentally get moved. And once you pin them, it locks it in place. So if you eventually, you know, try to move it, you get this error like, oh, you can't move it because it's pinned. So to pin it, once you click on something in the Modify tab, you'll see this little thumbtack. It's a little pin symbol. Like you can also use the shortcut, which is PN on your keyboard. Okay. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to click on it, hit this pin icon once I click on it, and you can see, you'll notice that there's a little thumbtack on here now. So if I try to move this for whatever reason, it won't let me. If I try to use the move command, it's gonna give me this error. Can't move pinned element. So it's always good to pin it. You can do the same thing with the project base point. So if I zoom in here and then I window select it, I can use that to pin. And then if I use my double middle mouse and then I pin it, and then now those are pinned. All right, I see we have a comment in the chat. There's no site plan template for our standards, so we should make sure the project base point is turned on. Yes, so which I'll show you in a bit is we're gonna actually delete these levels. So we do have to recreate this. So it's a good point, Celine, which I'll talk about in a bit. All right, so now that we pinned everything, it's not gonna move. We can move on to the next step. So the next step is we need to adjust the overall elevation callouts. You know, once we pinned it, we need to copy monitor stuff. But before we do that, we need to make sure the level or the elevation callouts are looking at the model properly. So in my example, you'll notice that the model's over here and my callouts are over here. So if I actually look at the north one, I'm not going to see anything. So I need to make sure that I adjust them. And to do that, you would just window select the whole thing. So the arrow and the circle, just window select it all to make sure that you move all of it. And I'll show you how to do that. So again, you can see they're down here. So what I need to do is I need to zoom in. You can zoom in to make it easier and just window select the whole thing. And you'll notice in your properties palette, it says it found two of them, two things. That's because the circle is an elevation and the head is the view. So if you don't properly select it, you might end up moving, you know, just the circle. But if I click on the head, you can see the view is still down here, so you probably won't see anything still. So it's always good to just window select, make sure you have two, and then once you window select, you can literally just drag it up and position it where you need to. So again, window select, make sure you go this way from right to left to get everything inside the box, and then just drag. And again, window select, and then move it. Position it where it should be. All right. There you go. Now your callouts are in the right spot. And we're going to move on to copy monitoring the levels. So we adjusted everything. We're going to copy monitor and pin levels. Everybody good so far? Any problems or issues? I think everyone should be good. All right. So I'm going to move on to copy monitor and pin levels. So copy monitoring, this feature allows you to copy certain things in from a linked model, and it actually monitors them to see if there's any changes. So say you got an updated architectural model, say they actually moved a grid or moved a level. If you use this feature, it'll let you know and tell you, hey, something's different. What do you want to do? It also gives you a guide to start with, so you don't have to recreate these levels from scratch. So to do that, I'm going to go to this Collaborate tab. I'm going to go to Copy Monitor, and I'm going to select the link. All right, so let's go ahead and do that. So once I have this, I'm going to go to my Collaborate tab on the ribbon. I'm going to go to the Copy Monitor, and I'm going to go to Select Link. Again, you want to make sure you're hovering over an object in the link, because if not, you won't see the border. So once I click it, you can see this Copy Monitor panel appear. Oops, I messed up. Disregard that. I should be in actual elevation view because I want to do the levels. So I like to go to the south view, so you can double click on the call out, or you can just double click on the south here. Either one will work. If I double click there, my view will open up. So now I want to copy monitor these levels. So I would go to copy monitor, select link, select this link here. Now this panel pops up. So once it shows, I would go to the copy button, and down below here, there's a multiple. I want to make sure I check that, because that will allow me to window select more than one object. If I don't hit multiple, it won't let me window select. I have to click one thing at a time. So I want to make sure I hit this check mark and I window select these. So I want to copy monitor all of these into my project. So you want to make sure you're selecting all the levels. So if you accidentally select a couple of things you don't want, there's this filter selection here, and it allows you to filter, for certain things. I only want levels, so I would hit that check none, and I would choose levels, and it would only select the levels. So once I have everything I want to copy monitor in, I would hit this finish down here. It's a little confusing because there's two finishes. You want to make sure you hit this finish right here first, because that finishes the multiple selection. So I hit this finish, and what you're going to see happen is once it finishes copying monitoring into your project, you'll see these little symbols here. These are the copy monitor symbol. So it's actually in your project, and it's monitoring to see if there's any changes. It also changes the ribbon to some modified ribbon tab. We don't need to modify anything, so you just have to either click on this copy monitor tab or just click in space somewhere, and it takes you back to this copy monitor area. And once you've done that, you can again copy monitor more stuff in, but I like to just finish this and just be done with the levels at this point. Okay. So now that I have my levels in there, I'll show you that they're actually in the project. So if you click on the RVT link and you type HH on your computer, that hides the architectural link, and you only see what's in your project. So you can see that I have the levels that I copy monitored in from the architect, and I have some default levels here. So I'm going to go ahead and delete those in a bit, but I just want to make sure that you see, what's actually in your project. Okay. And the last thing is I want to click on them and then pin them. You can also, if they're overlapping, you can adjust them. It's hard to see, but there's a little elbow here that allows you to add a little kink in it. And you can actually move it up and down and just, fine tune the way it looks. If that, you can hit a little elbow here. It's very hard to see, but it's a little elbow that allows you to move these up and down and make it look a little prettier. Okay, so now I have my copy monitor levels in. I selected them, I pinned them, and they're in my project. So that's that. All right, so now that I have these levels in my project, I want to make sure that I have a corresponding view, because if you notice, these ones that I copy monitored in are black, and the ones I have in my project are blue, like they're hyperlinked. So this tells me that there's a view associated with. See, I have a level 1, level 2 that corresponds to these two. I want to make views for all of the ones I just copy monitored in. Not necessarily all of them, but I'll show you which ones you can do. So to make the views, I'm gonna go to, let me go back to my slide. We will actually create those floor plans based on the levels. So what you would do is you would go to the View tab, Plan View, and you would click on Floor Plan. Okay. So let's do that. If I go to my View, and I go to my Plan Views, and I go to my Floor Plan, you can kind of create a couple different plans, but for this one, we're going to make a floor plan. And this is going to ask you what type of plan do you want to make. So you can change, what type of, which one you want, based on scale. But I'm just going to keep it at 16th. And then this allows you to choose which ones you want to make. based on the ones you have in your project. So say I only want first floor, second floor, third floor, and the roof. You know, I can, you know, hold control and select all of them. I can hold shift and select the last one. Say I don't want the elevator pit or the top of parapet or for whatever reason. You don't have to select all of them, but you can select the multiple. And then you can also, you know, if there's duplicate ones, you can show those here, but I typically just make new ones from these. And then I just hit OK. And then you can see that it opened up the last view that you created. So I'm on the roof plan right now. So I've created first floor, second floor, third floor, and the roof using that creating floor plans. So if I go back to my south, now you can see they're hyperlinked, right? These are blue, these are black. So now those have the correct views associated with them. The next thing I want to do is I want to delete the existing levels. Now that I have these I want to use, I don't want to keep these in my project. I want to delete them because they didn't come in from the architects. If I actually start creating walls and I associate them to those levels, if I ever delete those levels in the future, all the walls that are hosted to those levels will be deleted as well, unless you change them beforehand. So it's always good to, once you have levels in your project, to go ahead and delete them. And you'll see this window pop up once you delete them. Okay, so what I'm gonna do, I can't, if I delete it from here, from this view, it doesn't really delete it. It just deletes the view. It doesn't, you know, on here, it doesn't actually delete the level. So you wanna make sure you actually select the levels, level 1, level 2, and you hit the delete button. This is gonna give you the prompt that I mentioned earlier. It's gonna say, you know, make sure are you sure you want to delete it? And then because the site plan, like Salim mentioned, the site plan is hosted to level 1 that we're deleting, it's gonna also be deleted. So, you know, in the future, if we ever need to make another site plan, we'd have to recreate it and make sure the project base point and survey point are turned on. So if I hit OK, you can see they're gone from the view and then they're gone from the project browser. Okay. So that's a big point, to make sure you delete those. We don't want to keep those on in the project. Okay. Next thing we're going to do is we're going to copy monitor the grids. So similar to copy monitoring to levels, we are going to do it for the grids. And again, it's a way for us to not have to create them ourselves. HR to bring it back. So HR is a shortcut to bring anything back that you've recently hidden. So what I want to do now is I want to go to my floor plan, my first floor, and I need to copy monitor the grids. So it's the same process. If I go to my ribbon, collaborate, copy monitor, select link, and I'm going to click on the link. And then again, I'm going to hit the copy multiple. I'm going to do a window select. And again, I'm just window selecting everything right now because I can filter it out by using this little funnel filter. I'm going to hit check none, and I'm just going to click grids. It'll deselect everything, and it'll just select the 17 grid lines that I want. Once I've finished selecting all the grid lines, I hit finish. Remember to click the bottom finish. You can see they all have the little monitor symbol on them. And I would just click in space to go back to the copy monitor feature. And then I would just hit finish. So now I have them copy monitored into my project. So if I click on something like the stairs, hit H8 to hide it, now you can see I have my grids in here. So this gives me a starting point. You know, I don't have to actually lay these grids out, but I can, you know, copy monitor them and then pin them to make sure they don't actually get moved. Because I don't want to actually click on it and move it, because then it would be different from the architects. You'll also notice that these bubbles only appear on one side. So for whatever reason, if you want them on both sides, or say, you know, one actually turned on this side and not on this side, you can, you know, click on the grid and then click on this checkbox. But you can also, you know, say you want them on all sides, you would click on one, hit edit type, and then just turn on this default end so that they're on both ends. So now they're on all sides. Okay. So now I got my copy monitored levels, copy monitored grids, my linked in the project. I think the last thing to do for the setup wise is enter project information. So what I need to do is I need to go to the ribbon. Let me show you the PowerPoint slide. So for the project information, I would need to go to the Manage tab, go to Project Information, and then you would enter your project information like project name, number, city, state, and then architect, contractor. The reason we do this is to set it up because this will appear in all the title blocks on every sheet and in the cover page. And then you also will help for downstream tools the drafting team uses, like GG 2.0, which does all the glass, and the Gen Notes feature. This will allow us to make sure that the job name and job number are in there, so that way they don't actually miss that downstream. So to do that, if I go to the Manage tab, I go to the project information, and in the project information, you can enter the name here. So I would enter Advanced HQ2, oops, project number, put in the project number 70, I'm not sure what it is, 999. You know, this is in, just go to LA, and then architect is someone, the architect or the contractor is also someone. And then you just hit OK. And now you put in all of the project information. So if you need to go to a cover sheet, you can see that it's automatically filled in for you. And then if you go to an actual sheet, you can see it's filled in the title block. So we want to make sure we do that so that it's set up for the drafting team. Okay, so that's pretty much it setup wise. Again, this is only from when you get the model to right before you start modeling. You want to make sure all of those steps get done to ensure that you're in the proper location, you have the proper grid lines and everything's pinned. And then you would move on to modeling, whether it's the sales models or operations models, it doesn't matter. Whichever way you're modeling, you want to do these steps beforehand. Okay. I think that's it. Any questions? I know I went fast. Again, I will post I made a handout, which I'll show you guys. Where is it? So I do have a handout that actually, oops. So it actually walks you step by step of all the things we just talked about. So everything that I went over, it's a little more in depth, more in detail. So I'll be posting this on the training page for you to read over as well. It's 28 pages. So if you need to reference this, you can. Again, I will be posting the video recording. So are there any questions on anything you guys saw or have any questions on?
Just real quick, when you copy monitor the grids and the levels, you're copying those from the model you get, and then you're deleting the grids from the template. Is that right?
You won't necessarily delete them. So as you saw, if I hide the architectural model, I have my grids in here. But if I isolate just the architect's model, their grids are still on. So they're still there. They're just in their model.
Yeah.
Typically what we do is once we copy monitor them in, we'll turn those off. So in our view template, which is a little more advanced, but in the view template, we have the ability to control what we're seeing in the architect's model. So say I don't want to see any of their grid lines or annotations or anything, I can turn them off. And you can see they all go away. They're still in the linked model, but you can see that I turned them off, and then I'll bring my, oops, I did the wrong one, sorry. This is our model. I want to go to the linked one. I can turn off, I can say I want it to be custom, and I want this to be custom. I don't want to see any of their annotations. And I hit OK. And now you can see I just have our grids that we copy monitored in now.
Okay. So you're not deleting anything, you're just turning them off.
Yeah, exactly. I'm just turning them off so they're not printed or shown in the shop drawings, but they're there in the background kind of.
Okay, can I ask a question?
Yeah.
It's Jan. I'm sorry, maybe I missed it in the beginning, but again, I'm not a drafter, just to understand, this is what you do before it goes to actual drafting. Who's your client?
Yes, yeah. This is done before anyone should be modeling, whether it's sales model, whether it's operations model. This is done to ensure we're in the right location, everything's in the right spot. Yeah, I don't know if I answered your question.
Yes, you did. Thank you.
Any other questions in particular? I mean, again, I want to show you, there's nothing in the actual 3D besides the linked model. You can see if I hide it, there's nothing in here. So again, I just want to make sure we do all the steps beforehand before you actually start modeling. And you know, Damien's going to show you next week on how to, you know, the basics of sales models, on how to do that. So this is kind of, once you've done this part, you'd go to his section of sales models, and then, you know, eventually, you know, down to operations to convert it or actually just model from based off the architectural or based off the sales model. All right, any other questions? Any other comments? There's the baby, she's ready to wake up.
Where were those notes at?
I'll be posting them in the portal. I'll be sending it to the training team, and then they'll probably put a little link on there to the file.
Thank you.
All right, I think that's it, guys. That's all I have. If you guys don't have anything else.
Thank you, Gabe.
Thank you.
Okay.
All right, thanks, guys.
Thank you, Gabe.
Yep.
Beautiful
Bye.
job, Gabe.
Thank you.